What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today there's a question that I think everybody wants answered, but no one truly knows the answer to. And that question is, why are the Chicago Bulls so inconsistent? At the end of the day, the last two games speak for itself. The Detroit Pistons, one of the worst performances we've ever seen the Chicago Bulls play this season and in previous seasons prior. And then we end up winning a double overtime game against one of the best teams in the league in the Cleveland Cavaliers. So what's the deal? Why can the Chicago Bulls perform so well against the good teams, but also stumble and fall against the bad teams? Why is it that against some good teams we get blown out, but against other bad teams we can still pick up wins? Why do the Bulls have the most clutch games in the league? It's getting further and further as a fact now. Another clutch game we played against the Cleveland Cavaliers, the last game against Detroit prior to that, was also considered a clutch game. So what's the deal there, ladies and gentlemen? Why are all these things happening for the Chicago Bulls? But before we get any further, if you like the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and why you believe they are so inconsistent. Now, first and foremost, I think the biggest answer we can give is no one truly knows the one specific reason why the Bulls are inconsistent. Because let's be honest, if we did know the answer, we would address the answer. No one likes to be inconsistent. I'm sure if you ask AK himself, even though he wants to be competitive and whatnot, if you asked him, do you like how this Bulls team is inconsistent? I'm pretty sure he would tell you, no, I do not like that this Bulls team is inconsistent. I do not like the fact that we constantly lose to the Detroit Pistons, but we can beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in one game, granted, or the Philadelphia 76ers, or the Minnesota Timberwolves, or any other team that we played, the New Orleans Pelicans. We could beat these teams, but we could lose to Orlando 4 times in a row, or we could lose to Miami for 2 straight games, and stuff of that nature. And let's be honest here. I'm pretty sure if you ask them about an inconsistency question, that's probably the answer you're going to get. No one likes an inconsistent team. So, again, if we figured out the one reason why, we would have addressed this and we probably would have been a more consistent team. Now, I'm going to give you some of the reasons why I believe that's the case, but I'm not a coach, I'm not an executive, I'm not a general manager, I'm not a basketball owner, I'm a fan. And a fan only sees a select few things. I don't see what goes on in the training sessions. I don't see what goes on in meetings and in films and, watching film, or I don't get to talk to the executive vice president, Arturas Karnisovas, or I don't get to talk about Mark Eversley. I don't feel like anyone's talked to Mark Eversley for a while. I don't know where that guy has been, but we don't see him very often. Either way, whatever the case may be, all I can talk about is from a fan's perspective. So here's the first thing that I have to address when it comes to this. We used to be a team based on veterans. Vucevic, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, to an extent Lonzo Ball. He was coming off a couple years in the NBA, 4 years in the NBA, coming to the Chicago Bulls. A whole bunch of veterans. Even guys before that, like Thaddeus Young. That was kind of when we were a younger team, but we kind of built our team based on veterans. Now, with Zach LaVine out of the picture, with Lonzo Ball unfortunately out of the picture, and DeMar DeRozan and Vucevic still present, still being there, we have to rely on a lot more young guys. Keep in mind, guys like Torrey Craig is injured, even Patrick Williams is injured. So who are we relying on? Kobe White, someone that's been in the league for a while, but is starting to get his fair thick of things when it comes to being treated like one of the top guys in the NBA. The way that he's being defended right now is very different to how he was defended at the beginning of the season and last season. They put a lot more priority on Kobe White. You're relying on Ayo Dosunmu. Granted, he's having a better year. Having a great year, to be honest, Ayo Dosunmu. And that is someone that we have to rely on just a little bit more. The young guys having to step up. Eventually, when Patrick Williams comes back, he'll be in that same category. Guys like Julian Phillips off of the bench. We need to see more of him. He needs to be a guy that steps up. We're relying a lot on young guys. And what's the number one thing I say about young guys, ladies and gentlemen? If you're going to put your faith in young guys, you're going to get inconsistent performances. You need to allow these players to grow as players. Julian Phillips, some games will have 0 points. This game against the Cavs, he had 10 points in the game, I believe. Double digits, if I'm not mistaken. Whatever the case may be. Onuralp Bitim, granted he's 24 years old, but he's a rookie in the NBA standpoint. He just made a big impact in that last game against Cleveland. But does that mean he's going to make a big impact every step of the way, every single game? I would arguably make the case that you probably won't see the same level of consistency and the same level of play. You may see better, you may see worse, but it will be inconsistent. That's just what young players are. So you do need a little bit more veterans experience, but I don't even think the veteran experience is the problem here. I think the problem here is the mentality of this team. And here's an example. I guess the best example I could bring to the occasion is the player that's considered one of the best players in the league, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, when you look at Giannis, there's a lot of good things about him. Obviously, he's built different in the sense that he's genetically gifted for a guy his size. He can move the ball really, really well. He can dribble. He can use his athleticism. He's called the Greek Freak for a reason. He's a monster. But that's not what I'm talking about here. His mentality, in my opinion, is a bit different to everybody else's. I would even go out on a limb and say Jimmy Butler type of mentality as well. Whereas nothing is going to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo from getting what he wants. That's the type of mentality I look at when I see Giannis Antetokounmpo. If he wants to drive to the rim, good luck. Ain't nobody going to stop him. And he's going to get there whether you like it or not. That type of mentality. Where nothing is going to stop him. There's a reason why he got a ring. And I'll be honest, his ring is one of the hardest rings, in my eyes at least, there is. Some people call it a fluke win with the Milwaukee Bucks. I disagree. I really, really do. Because Giannis had to do a whole lot while he was hurt in the majority of those series. And he stepped up big time in those games. And the Milwaukee Bucks did as well behind him. But that type of mentality I look at, and I look at the Chicago Bulls, and that mentality is not necessarily there. I see it a little bit in DeMar DeRozan, a guy that when he has a bad game, he makes a vow to never have that bad game again. Or when things go wrong, you can tell the frustration is there. Or, you know, he has also the ability to get, I would say, inspiration from his teammates in many ways. He inspires his teammates to do better. I definitely see him as a team player type of guy for sure. In the locker room, I see him as, again, everybody talks about how good DeMar DeRozan is, but I think a mentality issue is there for the Chicago Bulls for sure, and not everybody shares the same mentality. That's fair enough. There's always going to be guys that think differently and react differently to certain things, but again, if you have a Kobe type of mentality on this Bulls team, a Mamba mentality, let's say, I think this team is completely different because I see talent in this team. I don't think there's anybody out here that watches the Chicago Bulls and says there's no talent in this team. There is definitely talent. There's talent from DeMar, there's talent from Vooch, there's talent from Kobe, talent from Ayo, talent from some of our younger guys. Even Andre Drummond has specialties and talents to his game. There's definitely talent in this team, but mentality issues, I think, is a big problem as well. So as much as we're relying on young guys, and young guys will be inconsistent, there's also mentality issues I feel like the Chicago Bulls team has. It probably is established from some of the guys that could be out. For example, as Zach LaVine. I don't want to throw shade at anybody, but I don't really know his mentality, to be honest. His mentality to me is a hard worker, actually. So I don't necessarily want to throw anyone under the bus because I don't want to name names and I don't know who has bad mentalities on this team. But again, whoever it is, you know, there could be some bad mentalities on this team and we definitely fall from that. Again, there's no other explanation to why we lose so often to bad teams but we could beat good teams. It's because we don't have the mentality the same every game. Our mentalities drop when we verse the easier teams because we probably think it's an easy, light work day. We can kind of chill a little bit. We don't need to bring our A game to this game and still win. But when you verse teams that are above us in the standings, like a Philly, like, again, a Minnesota Timberwolves, or a New Orleans Pelicans, or a Cleveland Cavaliers, because we competed in pretty much every single game against Cleveland, you have to you have to raise your mentality to get the belief that you could beat these teams. So if you had the mentality that I want to win every single game, I want to dominate every single game, and I want to make every single game a game that we fight and we truly win every single time. If you have the Giannis mentality of I'm going to get to the rim, I don't care what team I'm facing, I don't care who it is. There was a recent quote from Giannis that says he doesn't even do scouting on different teams. He thinks it's more fun. Are you crazy? But at the end of the day, he won't let anybody stop him, no matter what team it is and what the scouting report is. I think we need to see a little bit more of that mentality on this Bulls team, where guys will say nothing is going to stop me from getting this win. That's kind of what I feel a big issue is. But again, I'm just a fan. I could definitely be wrong. So what do you guys think? Thank you for watching. Drop a like and a follow, and or subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.